Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk and ELT. I am going to talk about something regarding CELTA. One of the things that I've realized is that CELTs sometimes don't really understand what they're getting themselves into. And that was something that was very much my situation. So let's go back a little bit of storytelling. When I decided to do CELTA, it was just like a whim. I was working for a school and they said, okay, we're going to bring the people here who wants to do the CELTA. And they offered some sort of discount. I was like, sure, I'll do it. And at the time I was looking for some sort of certification. I hadn't been teaching for long. I was new to the country. And so I was like, oh, okay, everybody seems to know what this is. Great. Yep, I'll do it. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. None. Zip, zero, nada. And it was an adventure in itself. But also I really didn't have I didn't walk into that situation as prepared as I should have walked into the situation. It all turned out in the end. It was fine in the end, but I just really didn't understand like what I was doing. And I think that's the feeling for a lot of participants and candidates that go into the program because I see the first day CELTA candidates with just eyes as big as saucers and just trying to absorb all of the information, and we don't even give you all the information on the first day, and and they're panicking and the anxiety levels, and it's like the nervous laughter and the awkward, just I mean real awkward conversations in the first classes and things like that. It's just like, what the hell is going on? So let me try and, from a former CELTI, and now CELTA tutor, let me try and help some people out. So when you're doing the CELTA, or probably anything similar, but I can only speak to the CELTA because that's the only thing that I know. When you're doing the CELTA, the program is run by Cambridge. It's assessed by Cambridge. There's lots of quality control steps in between. It's a standardized program, so all of the people that pass through the CELTA program have the same topics, the same number of hours, the same assignments, or same type of assignments, I should say, not exactly the same assignment. They have the content of the assignment changes, like the type of the category, like what you have to do is the same, but sometimes we change the content, otherwise it'd be on the internet and everybody would just copy it. You have the same in terms of dynamic of teaching, being observed, giving feedback, receiving feedback, all of that stuff, right? And you have input sessions. So all of that is controlled through Cambridge because they have the course outline, standardized course. Everybody gets the same course. But not everybody gets the same course. Because here's what happens is, depending on the center that you go to, you're going to have a different experience. Not because they're giving you a different course, not because one center is better, one center is worse. No. But all centers have their own delivery methods and the ways that they can do it. So Cambridge gives stipulations that you need to do this. How you do that, how you deliver that, needs to be within a certain acceptable range of delivery methods. And the centers pick and choose what works best for them. So let's use input sessions as one of the examples. Input sessions are times where you're receiving, as a candidate, you're receiving information about teaching practices, teaching skills, and all of that good information. But there's different ways that centers can deliver that information to you. One, they could use the Cambridge Moodle. So there's a Moodle, an online LMS that has text, videos, interactive activities, forums, submission, posting boards, things like that. And you get 100% of the information regarding the course, all of the different categories, all of the different topics you need to learn about is through the Moodle. So that's one way. There's also courses on the other extreme where all of the input information is done via training sessions, live, synchronous with your tutors. There's others that are kind of a hybrid and go in between those. So some of it is more heavily with input sessions given by tutors and some self-study work, or it's more self-study work and there's a few input sessions just to support you along the way. I've worked in centers on that entire spectrum from one end to another. And I can say that there's nothing that's more effective or less effective in general. But I can say that there are certain modes of delivery that are more successful for certain candidates than others. When I did my CELTA, I'm not going to tell you when because I'm old, it's fine, I did it years ago. When I did my CELTA, online wasn't an option. Or if it was, I hadn't investigated, but online wasn't an option yet. And so I did my CELTA presentially with the input sessions, 100% in a classroom with the tutors. And everything was done in the school that I was working at. Like they had paid for the people to come out and do the whole thing. I'm so old that the CELTA 5, which is your portfolio, which has all of your progress and stuff like that, it's in a blue book. Okay, I'm not super old because there's things predating this, but so this was mine. This is now digital. Like you don't have to, you don't, it's a whole thing. Like you don't have to handwrite things out and circle things. You don't have to do that anymore. This is from my experience. Now, I had an okay experience. It wasn't horrible. It was slightly traumatic, but it wasn't horrible. I had good tutors and stuff like that, and like it was informational, but one of the things that I wish I had done, well, probably I should have investigated a little bit more about what the objectives of CELTA were, and I'll talk about that. And I should have investigated a little bit more the modes in which we could do CELTA and asked the questions to the center about how things were going to go. So first, I didn't know the objective of CELTA. So CELTA is a program that is, again, designed by Cambridge University, and it is a standardized program that teaches you the initial teaching skills and knowledge for you to enter into an international classroom and teach English to adults. How we assess that as tutors and how the assessors assess the tutors as if we've, done our jobs properly is that if candidates can effectively and consistently apply knowledge, techniques, frameworks that are introduced in the program. So what does that mean? It's like, listen, CELTA is not going to validate you as a teacher on your own teaching methods, on your own, CELTA doesn't care about that. So I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but like CELTA doesn't care about that. What CELTA cares about is like, here, this is something that Cambridge University has identified. My dog senses danger outside. Let's see. This is not going to be edited out, so we're just going to have to bear with it if she starts barking. So she knows she's supposed to use her inside voice, and so she's just puffing air out of her. Animals are ridiculous, and I just love them so much. Anyways, so CELTA is going to look at, okay, so here's a way to have an effective grammar lesson or an effective receptive skills lesson or effective productive skills lesson. Here's a way to do that. And sometimes depending on your CELTA, you might get multiple ways of doing that. Now, what you need to do is you need to create that lesson, design that lesson, understand the key concepts of why we're doing things this way in this order and why we do it, why we're doing what we're doing. Build a lesson, apply, deliver that lesson, and reflect. Was that effective? did you meet your objectives? Were the students engaged? Were they able to better use some language that they didn't have previously? Were they able to practice some of their skills? That's it. And over the series of the course, the 4 assignments, the 8, most often than not, 6 to 8, depending on your center, 6 to 8 teaching practices, the interaction during feedback and those sessions, the interaction that you have with the input session materials, are you making progress? Are you grasping these concepts, effectively applying them, and are you improving every step of the way? You're assessed individually, not compared to your peers. So every person that comes into CELTA, it's like, all right, so this is this person, person A. Person A is here. They have this much experience, or they have no experience, and this is where they are. Now I'm going to give them the information, and then they're going to, kind of birth by fire, test things out, and see if they're able to deliver effective language lessons, effective in the sense of this is what Cambridge has deemed as some of the initial teaching practices, teaching skills, teaching knowledge that teachers need to have when they go into an international market. That's it. That's the objective. I quickly understood that because it's like you play by the rules. You don't have to invent things. You don't have to be super creative. No, it's like, okay, so here's the concept. Here's the technique. Apply the technique. Try it. Did it go well or not? Not so well. Okay, fine. How do you adjust? Okay, then I can probably do it this way. Great, try it next lesson. Did it next lesson? Worked better? Everything's okay? Good, move on to the next, right? I mean, that's the idea. And the other thing that I should have investigated is how things were delivered. I don't think that I had the option of an online like Moodle type of dynamic for my CELTA. However, I think I would have succeeded more. I think I would have gotten more out of it. Let me explain why. I did well. Listen, ironically enough, I got a pass A on my CELTA, which I was not expecting. It was something just totally, was like, really? And they're like, yeah. It's like, okay, cool. Because I follow directions. I'm really good at following directions. And I'm really good at like identifying, I did that wrong. Let me do that again. And like, just, annoyingly persistent at certain things because I have high expectations for myself. So it's not that I didn't do well. Yeah, I did well in the course. However, I was stressed the entire time, and I was in an environment that is not the best environment for my learning. Let me expand. When I'm a very independent learner. Kelly as a teacher, Kelly as a trainer is a different animal than Kelly as a student. When I don't know something, when I'm in a classroom, when I'm learning something, I'm extremely shy. I'm extremely withdrawn. I'm the person in the back corner of the classroom. I do not want to interact when I'm learning something new. When I'm absorbing and observing new things, I want to be left alone. I don't do well with interactive groups and people talking with me, and I don't do well with it. I know this about myself. I just, I've gotten to that point. So in my life that I just accept that this is how I prefer to learn. So I think, though I did well, like grade-wise or whatever, the input sessions for me were horrible. Not because of the content, because of the dynamic. It was horrible for me. Extremely uncomfortable. And I didn't grasp 50% of what I was doing. Because that's not how I learn. I don't do well if you tell me something, you're like, okay, now do it. No. That's like, now talk to your friend about, I don't do well in those situations. I prefer to have the info, like many people, I think it's not just me, but many people, I like to have the information beforehand. I like to absorb it. I like to have it rattle around, make some connections, try to understand it. I like to play with things in my mind before I ever have to do something immediately. That's my preference. So if I were to do CELTA again, I probably would look for the 100% Moodle input sessions and the distance CELTA, meaning doing it remotely online. That would have been an ideal scenario for me, and I probably would have gotten more out of the course than I did when I did it in person. So these are the types of things that I think candidates need to consider before they do CELTA. Not because they're doing CELTA or CERT TESOL or something like an initial thing, but I'm specifically talking about CELTA is not only consider, oh, I'm getting peer pressure, I need to do this, all of my peers have this certification, I need to get this certification, all of that type of stuff. I think what people really need to consider is, what's the best learning environment for me? Is this certification worth the money, time, effort, and stress? Because you have to be in a good place to be able to do it. It takes considerable amount of effort and focus to do it. Usually you're doing it on the weekends, you're working when you're not teaching. Most people do it part-time because of that, you know, they need to pay their bills, so they need to work. So I think you have to be in the right headspace. Like, yep, this is going to be a challenge. Hopefully it's not traumatic. Like, let's pray your tutors are considerate and they're not trying to make it a traumatic experience for you. But you got to look at the way and the dynamic of the course, because that very much is going to help you be even more successful and absorb more information during your time at the course. Because if you're not good, for example, if you're not good with technology, maybe choosing a fully online remote Moodle based course is not going to be the best thing for you. Why? Because everything is online, and you've got multiple logins. You got to go here and there. You've got, you know, folders embedded in folders and things like that. And sometimes that can get confusing for people who don't really navigate super well. So this is just my recommendation, is to, when you're talking to centers about and investigating prices and dates and times and all that stuff, which is extremely important as well, also ask the question about how is the dynamic of input sessions, and how much contact or support will I have directly with my tutors, and how much is it expected of me to study on my own? Because that would have been something that I think I should have asked before I started, and have the very clear understanding that you're going to be shown things in the course that are deemed appropriate for international teaching of English, and you're going to be assessed on whether you can take that information and apply it. It's not anything personal. It's not anything, oh, well, you know, you're lovely with this. No, I need to see if you can do these specific things and you can do them effectively. And if you can't do them effectively, are you able to reflect on that effectively and come up with a game plan on how to make some changes in the future? So that's my spiel for people who are considering these types of programs. You also need to not just look at prices, dates, locations, and things like that. You really need to consider the type of learner that you are, and set yourself up for success. Because not everyone is going to thrive in all learning environments. It's not going to happen. Some people don't do well in online environments, and some people don't do well with in-person environments. It's just, I think you need to think, how am I going to get the most out of this course? And that dynamic is really, really important, because if you feel as if you need to have someone there guiding you through because you're not as self-sufficient as you need to be as an independent learner, 100% Moodle course might be a bit of a challenge for you. A bit of a challenge on something that is already stressful and sometimes traumatic for people. it shouldn't be traumatic. I mean, really, we try to provide as much support as possible, but I think that the frustrations of trying to complete a course, get through a course in a way that's not really conducive to how you learn and how you're, just kind of how you're built in terms of absorbing information, understanding things, and studying. Why set yourself up for failure, or why set yourself up for future frustrations, making it more of a challenge than it actually is? It's already a challenge. Listen, these courses are stressful. These courses are stressful because you pay a lot of money, you have to invest a lot of time, and you want to get something out of it. And so I would just recommend choosing things that are going to be very conducive for that. Dynamics that are going to be conducive for that. I think that's it. So understanding, like, what is the objective of the course, and really getting that clear in your head, because then that will help guide your actions and what you do. And also seeing if the dynamics of the course are going to work for you or not, because there's nothing worse than having a course that is just, you're just not built for it. And that's okay. The other thing is, sometimes people don't have access. Sometimes there's not a center nearby. Sometimes it's like geographically challenging for them to take the course. And then in that scenario where you have no other option but to take like a remote course, my recommendation is that you get real comfortable with technology first before taking it, because trying to learn a skill while doing a stressful course is going to make it even worse. Yeah. So yeah, you gotta find the option that kind of works best for you. But it's not supposed to be super stressful. It's supposed to be, high stakes. We want you to learn stuff and progress. Obviously, it's all about people getting better in the profession, but it's stressful nonetheless. Don't panic. Also, the first day, don't panic. Things go wrong. Always. Always. And things go wrong on the candidates end, things go wrong on the tutors end, like missing links and broken things and can't finding this and that. Like the first day is just chaotic. So it's like you're in it together. Like everything's organized. We know what we're supposed to do, but people are sometimes in the wrong places, and some people get real anxious, and then they start asking lots of questions about things that if we give you the information, you're just going to get confused about it, because it's information overload on the first day. So the first day is just try and go with it. Just try and go with the flow, because your tutors are there to help you through it. And like, I'm the type of person, I'm also the type of person that likes to get all the information ahead and just kind of absorb it and like digest the information. That's not going to happen on a CELTA. So get real comfortable with that idea, because there's too many things going on. And so your tutors trying to reduce it's not because we're trying to be mean, but we're trying to reduce the amount of information and stress so that you don't freak out and think that you're forgetting something and you're not, or if you read something that has nothing to do with what you need to do now and then you forget the thing that you're supposed to do. We don't want that to happen. So usually we try and like give you piece by piece, like, okay, you need to focus on this today. This week, you got these things to work on. Next week, we'll talk about it. You're not going to get the information. It's too much. You're just going to freak out. It's too much. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh, God, it makes sense now. It makes sense now. Yeah, makes sense now. But in the beginning, it's like full on panic mode. Everybody panics in the first day. And I get it, because like the first day I get super anxious too. But I'm just letting you know, it'll all be okay. Find something that works for you. I think that's it. So that's my guidance to people who are interested in taking the course. Find the modality that works for you. Find a center that is willing to, or that has the dynamic that's going to kind of support you to get the most out of the course. Be realistic about what your capabilities are and your preferences in the classroom. You can be an introverted Weirdo like me in the back in the corner of the class and trying to hide because you're just trying to absorb before you have to perform in front of everybody. That's fine, but just try and find something that works best for you. That's my recommendation for people going into CELTAs. All right. That's it for today. There'll be more. Talk to you soon.